Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. Michael Darcy, your host here as always, and I'm recording this video live from the Sports Radio 810 WHB studios. And today I wanted to talk about the possibility of Chris Jones sitting out of training camp this year. I know to some Chiefs fans that is a scary thought, and, some might say that it's crazy, but I do think there is a possibility that Chris Jones sits out until he gets that contract extension that he so desperately wants. So in this video, I'm going to go over that possibility and talk about, what happens if he does sit out and give my thoughts on that whole situation and if I think he's going to have a contract extension in the next couple weeks. But one important detail that I think it's worth noting before we talk about Chris Jones and his situation is about a week ago, the New York Jets signed defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to a 4-year, $96 million contract extension, which has him locked up in New York until the 2027 season. And I think that's really important to note because he becomes the second highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL behind Aaron Donald. And I do think that Aaron Donald deserves to be the number one paid defensive tackle in football. He's really good at football. He's really good at the sport. And I think that he is one of the best defensive tackles in the game. After Chris Jones had a stellar 2022 season and Aaron Donald was just kind of okay, I think you could maybe argue that Chris Jones is now the top defensive tackle in the league. But Quinnen Williams signing that massive 4-year extension before Chris Jones, I think this is the worst case scenario for the Chiefs. Because if you're looking at this, if you're Chris Jones, you're sitting there saying, I'm better than both Aaron Donald and Quinnen Williams. And look at what Quinnen Williams just got paid. So I think that, the Chiefs probably aren't very thrilled that the Jets signed defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to this massive extension before they could sign Chris Jones. Because that's only going to make this Chris Jones extension harder to do. Now, I still do think that Chris Jones wants to play in Kansas City. He's stated his desire that, I want to be a Kansas City Chief for life. This is where I'm, comfortable playing. This is home. I've won 2 Super Bowls for the love of God. So he wants to play in Kansas City, but kind of like the whole DeAndre Hopkins situation, the price has got to be right. And I really hope that the Chiefs go out there and say, you know what, Chris, you've been such a stellar player in this system. You've been so good for so long. Here's your bag. I know the Chiefs have kind of gone New England Patriots style and, made the decision to not sign guys to giant contracts, especially guys that, are getting towards the end of their, final contracts. I still think that he's got 1 or 2 contracts left, but, the New England Patriots didn't pay guys, and that's kind of how they were able to keep up that dominant model of success for so long. But I think there comes a point in time where you're just going to have to pay guys what they're worth. And quite frankly, Chris Jones is worth $100 million. I know that's crazy to some people, but Chris Jones, in my opinion, was the best defensive tackle in football last season. Now, the question's going to be, are the Chiefs going to reward his efforts? Are the Chiefs going to say, you know what, Chris? Thank you for everything you've done. We think that you could be a defensive player of the year, which he damn near was last year. We think you have this potential. We think that you make our defense this much better, and we don't want to live in a world where you are not on our defense. I think that's probably where the Chiefs are at, but I'm worried that, right now they're still in the midst of contract negotiations, and in the past, with guys like Tyrann Mathieu, we've kind of seen the Chiefs not really offer guys probably what they're fully worth. And DeAndre Hopkins, who just signed with the Tennessee Titans for like 2 years, $26 million, $32 million possibly after the incentives, if he can reach those, I think that just kind of shows you that the Chiefs aren't really going to, give guys what they're worth on the market. Now, I'm fine with DeAndre Hopkins going to the Tennessee Titans for that contract. Quite frankly, I would have probably been pretty pissed off if the Chiefs did pay D-Hop that money. But with a guy like Chris Jones and his caliber, guys, we're talking about at least a top 2 defensive tackle in the game of football. I would say that right now he is the best defensive tackle in football. Without Chris Jones on this team, this defensive line takes a massive step back. And I do think that it's important to pay your cornerstone pieces. No one would be arguing that the Chiefs should not try to pay Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce what they're worth. Luckily, they have taken team-friendly discounts to play on this team, but you're not always going to get that. You're going to have guys that just quite frankly want to get their bag. And I have no problem with that, but the Chiefs need to make sure that if they can get Chris Jones, you get Chris Jones. You cannot cheap out on everybody. Eventually, you got to give a guy what he's worth. And Chris Jones is easily worth $100 million. Now, the question is going to be, does Chris Jones want to be paid top tier defensive tackle money? Does he want to be making more money than Aaron Donald? That's going to be tough. If he wants to make more than Aaron Donald, which he might and probably does, that's going to be tough. And the Chiefs are going to have a difficult decision to make. But again, Chris Jones last year was the best defensive tackle in football. If you look at it by like every defensive statistical metric, he was really freaking good. He was a defensive player of the year candidate. And that says a lot because they don't really give that award out to guys not named Aaron Donald at the defensive tackle position. So Chris Jones was really good. He was really good last year, and I only think that he's going to get better in the next 3 to 4 seasons. But, it's going to be a question as to whether he's going to find that common ground with the Chiefs organization and if they can come to an agreement. Because right now, I don't know, man. He hasn't reported to Chiefs training camp. Today was the first day that players could report. So I'm not too worried about it from that standpoint. But, if a deal doesn't materialize, I'm not really sure if he'd show up. Now, I think that Chris Jones is all about winning. I think Chris Jones is about the team first, but he has made it clear that he wants to get paid. And the Chiefs have gone through this situation before. I think in the same offseason back around COVID when they signed Pat to that long-term extension, maybe I'm getting my years mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that they signed Chris Jones to that massive 4-year, $75 or $80 million extension. And, they were able to make it work. And I think that's probably going to be the same situation. But I'd really like them to get this deal done because I don't think he's going to show up to camp unless he has a new deal. They asked Andy Reid today because it was the first day that he was going to speak to the media because they're in St. Joe right now. And he said that he doesn't know if Chris Jones is going to show up. I think that, right now Andy Reid said that they are, in communication regarding a new contract and they're still trying to, work out the kinks. But I do think that until Chris Jones, signs that dotted line on a new contract, I'm not sure he's going to show up to training camp. But Chiefs Kingdom, what do you guys think? Do you think Chris Jones is worth $100 million? Do you think Chris Jones is going to show up without a new contract? I think that right now he's all in on getting a new contract. That's what he's worth. And I have no problem with it. At a certain point, man, the Chiefs are going to have to dish out that money and pay somebody. And if you're going to pay anybody, Chris Jones is the guy to pay. He is the leader of this defense. He's a guy that you can build around. And the Chiefs seem to show, a guy like Chris Jones who has given his all to this city, to this franchise, that your hard work is not going to go unnoticed. That your hard work and the 2 Super Bowl championship trophies that he's been able to help deliver to this city, we're not going to underappreciate that. You're going to get your bag. So I'll be very interested to see how this entire situation works out. I'm going to be following it very closely, paying attention during training camp, kind of seeing where this fits in. Because remember, guys, the whole Chris Jones, is he going to get an extension thing? Right now, I guess if we look back at the DeAndre Hopkins situation, that was the main reason why D-Hop wasn't able to get signed because the Chiefs didn't have that cap space until they extended Chris Jones. Now it looks like it's going to be like a Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed kind of extension offseason. But even then, I think the number one priority for this Chiefs office is to sign Chris Jones to a lengthy contract extension. So Chiefs Kingdom, that's all I have for this video. If you liked it, go ahead and like and comment and subscribe for future Chiefs content. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video, and go Chiefs.